Virtua Fighter 3 is the third fighting game in the Virtua Fighter series. Two new Japanese characters were added to the roster of fighters: Aoi Umenokoji, a beautiful Japanese woman and a childhood friend of Akira Yuki who used a nimble form of Aiki-jujutsu as her fighting style of choice, and Taka-Arashi, a sumo wrestler from Japan. Taka-Arashi would not make another appearance in the Virtua Fighter series until Virtua Fighter 5R. The series' current producer, Hiroshi Katioka, explained that the removal of Taka in subsequent installments was due to the technical implications of having a substantially larger character. Taka had in fact nearly been cut from Virtua Fighter 3 due to difficulties with his jumping moves. It was the first arcade game to run on the Sega Model 3 system board. A playable demo was unveiled at Tokyo's Aoi show in February 1996. Computer and Video Games described the game's demo, also unveiled at Miami's Acme show in early March 1996, as the most astounding to display a video game graphic muscle ever in the history of this industry. A port for the Sega Saturn was announced but ultimately cancelled. However, the game eventually reached home consoles in the form of a conversion for the Dreamcast. Gameplay. This iteration is the first in the series to have undulation in the stages, such as a staircase in the Great Wall stage, a stage set on top of a sloping roof, and a raft constructed of individually moving elements on a bobbing water surface. A fourth button, the dodge, was added. Pressing the button with the joystick in neutral or held up makes the character move into the screen, while pressing the button with the joystick held down makes the character move out of the screen. This evasion technique enables players to dodge incoming attacks, creating opportunities to counter-attack almost immediately. History. Virtua Fighter 3 was the launch title for the arcade board Model 3 from Sega. Developed by Yu Suzuki's Sega 2AM, it was a revolutionary game from a technical standpoint, with its detailed graphics earning widespread praise. Characters' eyes appeared to track the opponent's position, their muscles could flex and relax, and the fighting arenas featured stairs and slopes. At the Japanese Aoi show on February 21, 1996, Sega displayed non-playable demos of Lao-chan, Daryl, a new character Aoi Umenokoji, who was unveiled for the first time at the show. However, Daryl, the robotic final boss, garnered the most attention, due to being made of a metallic surface that reflected the surrounding environment. Yu Suzuki announced a Sega Saturn port at a late 1996 press conference, elaborating that 2AM Research had been studying Virtua Fighter 3 for the past few months and had at last determined that it was possible to create a Saturn port comparable to the arcade version. To facilitate the conversion, 2AM's research and development labs spent some months working on the 3D accelerator cartridge for the Saturn, but the cartridge was cancelled for undisclosed reasons. Sega officials nonetheless stated that Virtua Fighter 3 would be ported to the Saturn with or without the upgrade cartridge. Virtua Fighter 3 TB is an update version of Virtua Fighter 3 that featured battles between teams of various fighters, one after another is defeated. This team battle version was later released on Sega's Dreamcast console, being one of its launch games, becoming one of the best-selling Dreamcast games in Japan. Virtua Fighter 3 was intended to be a launch title for the Dreamcast in North America, but it was delayed. Although it did eventually come to North America, it wasn't nearly as successful as it was in Japan. Reception. Virtua Fighter 3 has received positive reviews from critics. Computer and Video Games reviewed the arcade version in its November 1996 issue and declared that it is the best 3D fighting game ever. All Games. Brett Allenvice reviewed the arcade version and scored it 4.5 out of 5 stars. concluding that it is a deep game with a cinematic look and virtually limitless replay value. The fifth game, Fame Meg Awards of 1996, gave Virtua Fighter 3 the award for Coin-Op Game of the Year. The 10th Gamist Awards gave it the award for Best Graphics of 1996. And it placed 4th place for Overall Game of the Year and 5th place for Best Fighting Game. Edge reviewed the Dreamcast version and gave it an 8/10, stating, "Bouts take place atop sloping downtown rooftops and on flights of steps, in the lapping waters of a desert island and on the Great Wall of China, but Virtua Fighter has grown into a highly technical game since the inception of the series in 1993, resulting in the uneven flaws of the third game, affecting the movement and attacks of the characters, where once Tekken's approachable, one button for each limb system seemed the way forward for the genre. It limits interaction in a true three-dimensional space. VF's alternative with buttons for punch, kick, defend and dodge, while perhaps not offering the same scope for multiple attack movements, allows you to control the characters with unrivaled grace." GameSpot's James Mielke praised the Dreamcast version, awarding it 8.2/10. saying, "Virtua Fighter fans will find all they need neatly wrapped in this package. All games can win, however, compared the Dreamcast version unfavorably with Soul Calibur. In the arcades, the game was very successful, to the point where the profits from this game in Virtua Fighter 4 helped recoup the losses Sega received from the commercial failure of Shenmue. Characters. Returning characters: Akira Yuki, Pari-chan, Lao-chan, Wolf Hawkfield, Jeffrey McQuild, Cage Maru, Sarah Bryant, Jackie Bryant, Shun Dai, Lion Raffle, Dural. New characters: Aoi Umenokoji. Birth date: March 14, 1979. Taka-Arashi. Birth date: November 11, 1968.